All right, so now let's talk about where to work once you do have your certification and you're in the country where you actually want to be teaching. So basically, here you have four options. You can teach in a public school, you can teach in a learning center, you could do corporate classes, or you could do private tutoring. And each of those options come with their own pros and cons. So let's start off with the public schools. In the public schools, there's really high demand here in Ho Chi Minh City for English teachers, and all across Vietnam, really. So getting a job is going to be pretty easy. The hours are going to be good. You're probably going to be working in a public school from 15 to 40 hours a week. In my scenario, I worked at a gifted high school teaching 11th and 12th grade, 15 to 20 hours a week. But I do have a friend that works the full 40 in his school. I believe now he's teaching 8th, 9th grade. But also, you can look at any age range when you go to the public schools. If you like teaching the little ones, you can find a classroom with the little ones. If you want, the high school students, you can find that. So there's definitely some pros to teaching in a public school. The biggest being the availability of jobs, and probably the second biggest being you're going to get hours and probably a pretty good pay rate. I'd say you're probably going to earn anywhere from teaching in a public school, you're going to earn anywhere from $15 to $25 an hour, with most of us coming in around the $18 to $20 an hour mark. But now there are some downsides to the public schools. A lot of them don't have air conditioning in the classrooms, and if you're unlucky enough to find a school without the AC in the rooms, that can be pretty uncomfortable, standing and talking for 45 minutes, an hour and a half, or all day long in the Vietnamese heat with no AC. Now, most of them do have fans, and some of the nicer ones do have air conditioning in every classroom. Mine did, so I can't complain there. The other thing with public schools is you may or may not have audio-visual equipment. In my example, my school actually provided a blackboard, a whiteboard, and a projector, as well as laptop hookups. So that made it really easy to do presentations. If your classroom does not have audio-visual equipment, then the onus falls on you for your presentations. It's possible I've done it in substitution where I've had no AV equipment and I simply did my presentations off my laptop by walking around the classroom so that the different students could see the display. Not easy, very cumbersome, so that's something you want to look at when you're looking at your public schools. Now, second is the learning centers. The biggest benefit, I think, of the learning centers is, well, two really. Typically, you're going to get higher pay than you would in a public school. You'll probably fall closer to the $20 to $25 an hour mark here in the Ho Chi Minh City area. And the second big factor, positive factor, is you're going to get probably all the equipment that you need as far as audio-visual support is concerned. So your classroom's probably going to have the whiteboard, the blackboard, the projector, the laptop connects, probably even a sound system for the classroom. So you really get good support in that area. Now, like the public schools with the learning centers, you can teach pretty much any age range. But I think typically learning centers, for the most part, are either catering to the very young, the little children, or they're catering more to the high school students that are preparing for college, or even adults. So the negative thing about learning centers, in my opinion, is you're probably going to get much fewer hours. So in a public school where you're teaching maybe 15 to 40 hours a week, you might look in a learning center at getting 5, 8, 10 hours a week, if you're lucky. And so that's definitely a major factor to consider. Of course, there's exceptions to the rules. There are teachers who teach full-time at learning centers, but in my experience, those positions are few and far between. Now, your third option is to do a corporate classroom. And I've done that, and I really, really liked it. And I'll tell you why. Mainly, it appealed to me because a corporate classroom is an adult classroom. And I found in adult classrooms, classroom management is almost non-existent. You don't have to worry about it. If you're teaching a public school classroom of 40 or 50 sixth graders, then classroom management is a huge factor, and you're going to spend a lot of time just managing the children. But when you have a corporate classroom of adults, they're all there usually paying to learn, or their company's paying for them to learn. And so they have a vested interest in learning, and they're really focused and interactive, and it can be a lot of fun. The other big benefit to corporate classes is that they're very small in size. Typically they range about 4 to 15 students. My corporate class was 16 students, and that was a little large, but they vary. And in my opinion, the smaller the classroom size, the more intimate and involved you can get with the students. However, the larger the classroom, the more potential you have for group projects. So it's kind of a toss-up on those. And of course, with corporate classes, the classrooms are usually fully stocked with audiovisual equipment, everything you need, and the environment is usually much more comfortable than that of a public classroom with the little dinky desks and sometimes no air conditioning. You go to a corporate classroom, you probably got a sofa and nice chairs and air conditioning and fans and everything that you need to be comfortable. Now, the final option is to do private lessons. And I love doing private lessons. When you do private lessons, you can do everything from tutoring one-on-one to actually setting up your own classes. There is a huge downside to doing private lessons, though, and that is you have to do all the work. You have to go out there and market yourself. You have to go out there and find the students that are going to attend your class. You have to find the location where you're going to actually teach. Whether you rent a place or whether you do like I did. I used a local cafe that had some really nice seating and some good tables. And I would have my students come to the cafe and meet me at a specified time. And we'd just set up the laptop and do our presentations right there, do our little group projects and have our interaction, and it worked out really, really well. So if you get a scenario like that where a cafe or a restaurant or a bar is willing to let you use some of their space for an hour or two here and there, free of charge, then that's a great deal. Otherwise, you actually have to pay rent for your own classroom. Now, I have a friend who does that, and he does very well. He actually rents a very large house. I believe it's 4 stories, and 2 of the stories he's converted into classrooms. So it works out really good for him, but it is expensive for his rent. So you have the overhead. Now, another benefit to doing private lessons is you set the rate. So you get paid what you want to get paid, provided you can find the students who are willing to pay it. So anyway, there it is in a nutshell. You've got your public schools, you've got your learning centers, you could go with a corporate classroom, or you can set up your own private lessons. Personally, I did a combination of pretty much all of the above, and that's what a lot of people like to do, because if you go to a public school and you're not getting the hours that you want to get, you can easily add in some private lessons, or even apply to a learning center for a 4, 5, 6 hour a week gig. So keep those things in mind when you're looking at where you want to work. Okay, so to wrap up episode 1 of the True series, let's talk about where to live. Basically, you've got 4 options. You can live in an apartment, a hotel, a hostel, or a house. Airbnb is always a good way to go for temporary stays as well. Now, when you're taking your in-class, in-country course, you want to look for a program that provides accommodations. That's the best case scenario. That's actually the deal that I went through. And it was great because I was going to class with the people that I was living with. So, I had my own room, but we were in the same houses with little apartments. So it was really nice to be able to gather together in the living area and go over class notes and work on projects, and it just became a nice community for friendship. If you're not lucky enough to get that, I'd recommend going with a hostel if you're younger. If you're, say, 26, 27 or younger, I think a hostel's a really great bet. I know a lot of people that have done that. And the reason is, first of all, they're incredibly cheap. For example, you can get a hostel room here in Ho Chi Minh City for as little as $4 a night. But the other big thing is you get that community feeling. Stay in a hostel, you're going to be there with a lot of travelers, a lot of backpackers, and you'll just have plenty of people to talk to and visit with. Whereas if you stay in a hotel, it kind of limits your community relations a little bit. So during the program provided accommodations, I would say, is number one. A hostel if you're younger, or a hotel if you just want a place to stay and work and study when you're not in the classroom. Now, once you do get your certification and you obtain a job position, that's when you want to sign a contract. That's when you want a lease. And when you look for that, obviously you're looking for either an apartment or a house. Here in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City, apartments range anywhere from as little as $200-300 a month all the way up. My apartment is quite comfortable, and I may have mentioned before, but it's $250 a month, and I live comfortably. It's got air conditioning, it's got the big screen TV, it's got a decent bed and a wardrobe and everything that I need, a nice bathroom, shower, and I get that for $250 a month. I do have friends that pay $400, $500, $600 a month for their apartments, and of course, the more you pay, the better the amenities. My friend with the most expensive apartment has a beautiful, luxurious apartment complex with a big swimming pool, a gym, all kinds of things, daycare, everything that they could possibly want or need. So you sort of get what you pay for. But apartments are the easiest route and the most affordable route to go. Houses are a great option though. If during the course, if you're doing in-class, in-country, you make some friends, a really great idea, and I've had some friends that have done this, is to look for a house for rent where you can share the expense and share the experience. So it's kind of like a real-life friend situation where you live with 2, 3, 4 of the people that you went to school with, and it could be really nice. You can gather together in the living room or the kitchen and have a meal together and talk about work and your teaching experience, or just really get that tight-knit experience of friendship in living together. If you try to rent a house on your own, it's going to be pretty expensive. I have a friend here who does it. He pays about, let's say it's about $800 or $900 per month, but he rents a 4-story house. I mentioned him before, 2 of his floors he's converted into his own classrooms for private lessons. So if you're in a financial situation where you're flexible enough to do something like that, then that's also a great option. Alright guys, so that wraps up episode 1 of the True series. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about what life is like here in Vietnam. So I'll talk a little bit about culture, the pollution, the traffic, the food, everything you can think about related to living here in Vietnam and what it's actually like. So make sure you subscribe and click on that notification button so you can get notification when the new videos are uploaded. I'll see you next time. Dave Maxwell out.